the time I was 17, I knew that my dream was to conduct a chamber orchestra, preferably on period instruments. I went to audition at Juilliard for the graduate program in conducting. It was quite a very intense audition process, and the professor, an older German, old-school conductor named Otto Werner Müller, he said to me, "Well, my dear, I really think you should go find a different profession because I'm sorry, but orchestras will never accept a woman as a conductor." So that was a real shock. And it took me a while to figure out how to process that. But you have to find your own path. Let's go back over a few things. Going back to the slow part of the overture, I would love it in measure 9 and 10 if we could really have the feeling in this of some effort, as if he's climbing up onto his horse. And you remember that Don Quixote's horse is almost lame and very scrawny and skinny and starving. And so, getting up onto the saddle, and then he kind of collapses. The horse collapses or he falls off, I don't know which it is. So, one more time. A little more. And now we're gonna get on the horse. I don't think about whether I'm a woman on the podium or a man. For me as a conductor, I'm just trying to express the music and get everyone in the orchestra to be on the same page as to what is the mood that we are conveying to the audience, what is the story that we're telling. You're following a trail to unravel a mystery of what is this piece of music really about. And now he's asleep and he's gonna get up in the morning slowly. Stretching, a little yoga. Coffee. Morning paper. The headlines are depressing. And it's raining. might as well go back to bed. And now we're going to dream of windmills. Apollo's Fire is a group of Baroque specialists, so we're all playing on historical instruments of the period. Monticello.
Very good conductors have an amazing toolbox. I mean, by toolbox, I mean a repertoire of gestures that are very easy to follow, easy to recognize.
She knows us, the players, very well, and what our potential is, and the types of sounds that she can coax out of us.
I would say also that when she hires somebody, you are trusted. She has confidence in the people she hires.
But everybody's very personally invested as well, and I think Jeanette really leaves room for that.
Also leaves us to do our job sometimes, and that's where the trust comes in.
Less successful conductors fail to show their skills, knowledge, and toolbox in the first few minutes of a rehearsal. And performers are super sensitive to that. And we know in a click of the fingers if a conductor will engage us or not.
One of Jeanette's most extraordinary gifts is that she's a storyteller, no matter what the program.
And she's showing her intention in ways that wouldn't necessarily be considered conducting when she's using her hands, of course, on the harpsichord.
And also in understanding, and that's particularly her point, the relation between notes, music, rhythms, pitches, and emotions.
So all of the people who wrote about music in the 17th and 18th centuries, the Baroque period, what they all talked about was the concept of affect, that is, moving the emotional moods of the listeners. It was the role of a musician, a performer, to influence the moods of the listeners. That was what it was all about. Okay, yeah, it's beautiful, and I think it was the perfect tempo, Renee. How are you guys thinking of the affect?
I can be more lyrical if it's a too...
Serene. Yeah, well, I think it could be a hair more lyrical, but mostly I was feeling like it could have more atmosphere. Like, to me, this piece is so special. I think it could be more mysterious and evocative. Yum, bum, bim, bim, bum, bum. These figures that keep coming back, especially when we get to the final bit where you have it so many times. I think it can just have more of a sense of mystery around it. Okay, in this same perfect tempo that you chose. The principal cellist of Apollo's Fire is René Schiefer, who is my ex-husband. And there were definitely very challenging times for us working together. We're a really great musical partnership, the two of us. That's what brought us together in the first place. But when we were splitting up, he moved back to Europe, which is where he's from, for some years. And during those years, I was trying out different cellists and trying to find someone who would be right for our group. And I ended up coming back to René because musically he's the right person.
When you fall in love, that's projection. You're basically falling in love with your own subconscious. You know, the other person is a vessel for your subconscious. You're each other's vessel for your projections. Then you get married, and then you get, you can't keep the projections up, and you get to see the real person. And I can honestly say that those projections are no longer there.
A lot of aspects to conducting. You have to be an interpreter. You're interpreting a score that you have only the dots on the page. You have to be, in my opinion, a group therapist. We're dealing with 20 or 30 or 40 or 70 individual artists who each have their artistic personalities and their neuroses. There is a balance between being collaborative and being authoritative. You need some of both. With my own group, Apollo's Fire, these are my companions and friends of many years. So there is more discussion in rehearsal, sometimes too much. And it is up to me to put an end to it and say, this is the way we're going to do it.
Way that we're articulating the 8th plus 2/16. Some are compressing it a little bit after the trill.
Right. Yes. I like the compression. Yum, ba 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 ba, dum, ba 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 ba. Okay, cool, thank you. So when everybody comes in at the downbeat of 5, it needs to be more of an event. I want to see how much ring we can create. That seemed better already than what we did before. Let's do that again. Right, very nice. So can it be that way every time? I wonder if maybe Kyle and Allison should switch.
Well, I mean, eventually I think we're also going to not be
Right,
tucked away,
but
right?
for now, maybe? Okay, come on, let's not waste time. Okay. I feel like it's been a long time since we have done this piece. I don't know. Yes, and Harrisonburg, you did it without me. I felt so left out. So the theme is a bit fiery by means of compressing the first 4/16 notes a tiny bit. Okay. Have fun, guys. Could we look for one moment at my favorite measure, measure 57? So the firsts have this intense, long A that's going to grow and grow and grow. And then when we come off the tie, the first and the seconds are joining. Can we start in 56? Yeah. If the first 3/16 notes after the tie could be longer, that would be cool. Yeah, a little heavier. Da ti da ti da 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 da. Yeah, we can always take it away again. Yeah, I think it's still too subtle for anyone to notice it. So let's go back to, how about letter B, measure 46. Yeah, okay, that was good. I don't think it was too much. Okay, yeah. I mean, for a big hall that we'll be playing in. I passionately wanted piano lessons, I think from the age of 5 or so. I was almost kind of obsessed with it. But when I was a child, my parents were graduate students, and so there wasn't much money, and so we didn't have a piano. Finally, when I was about 10, they started offering free piano lessons after school at the public school where I was a kid, and the only requirement was that you had to have a piano at home to practice. So I lied, and I said that we had a piano, and I made myself a little paper keyboard and practiced on the paper keyboard. And then once a week I would go over to my friend Tracy's house. Tracy had a piano, but Tracy hated to practice. And so we would go into the piano room and close the door, and I would practice. And Tracy's parents thought that she was practicing. And everybody was perfectly happy with this arrangement. And we did it that way for a year. And then my parents saw that I was really obsessed. And so they bought this upright piano, used upright piano, for $125. And I still remember the day when it arrived. I was about 10 or 11. I just sat there for 4 hours playing over and over again the little pieces that I knew. I was so incredibly happy. I was serious about it. I loved practicing, and I was kind of driven and practiced quite a bit because 11 is very late to be starting the piano. Eventually, I went to Oberlin Conservatory. As a conductor, I was then required to take a secondary instrument. So there were all these instruments that were going to be so foreign to me, and then I saw harpsichord on the list, and I thought, well, that'll be easier than anything else. So I signed up for it just to fulfill a requirement. But within 4 weeks, it was clear to me that this is going to be my instrument. I went to Amsterdam for a year and studied with the great harpsichordist and pioneer of the whole early music revival, Gustav Leonhardt. I would play my pieces for him, and then he would sit down and play them for me his way. And for me, personally, that was the most insightful and compelling way to learn how to make beautiful sounds on the harpsichord. One of the most fun things about Baroque music for a keyboard player is playing what we call basso continuo, which is really the essence of Baroque music. And it means that we are playing only from the same bass notes that the cellos play from. So the cellist is playing these notes. And then I play chords over that, so it can sound like this.
The modern oboe has an incredible amount of hardware on it, for one thing. So it's usually made out of a very, very strong, hard, dark colored wood, whereas this is made out of a much lighter, softer wood. This is the most common wood, called European boxwood, for instruments of that period. Which is to say it has simply open tone holes that I cover. It has no thumb hole or any kind of octave key. So all of that subtle negotiation between registers and octaves is done with my airspeed and with my embouchure, with my mouth.
So the Baroque bow, it's a little bit, it's actually considerably shorter and lighter than the modern bow, and it has a convex curve instead of the concave modern line that you see, and it's designed to taper towards the tip. So the modern bow gets really easily the same sound from the beginning to the end of the bow, and this bow has a natural decay to it, so you get this sort of spoken quality, whereas the modern bow is designed to sing long, smooth lines.
That's so crucial to Baroque music because it allows a transparent and lively texture, and it allows the other voices to emerge.
Apollo's Fire is one of the world's leading period instrument ensembles. Jeanette, welcome and great to have you here.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Eric.
Yes, I had the great privilege of studying in the conducting class here at Tanglewood in 1989. It was definitely a memorable summer. I already knew very well when I came here that I wanted to be an early music specialist. I wanted to work with period instruments. I actually knew that since I was 17. I know that sounds so nerdy. But I really wanted to be an early music conductor who had some conducting technique and some rehearsal technique. And in those days, there were a lot of harpsichordists leading Baroque groups who really didn't have any conducting training or not much. So I had the summer here. I was the baby of the conducting class. I was also the only girl in the class. I was like, the little runt of the conducting class. I worked on Mozart with Bernstein. I felt like that would be a good meeting point for us.
Did you fess up to Mr. Bernstein that this is what you were interested in, and what was his reaction?
I think he liked what I was doing. What all those mainstream conducting teachers used to say to me in those days was that I was musical and therefore I had a right to exist. Well, I do remember at the end of my last lesson with him, he gave me one of his famous big bear hugs. And it was, I think all of us felt that way. Like, it was just like a wonderful kind of uplifting sense that, okay, here's this great man who we all admire who likes what I'm doing, So it was very sweet. So after my year of studying in Amsterdam with Leonhardt, I was actually living on the prize money from a harpsichord competition that I had won. So then I got a call out of the blue from the artistic administrator of the Cleveland Orchestra.
It was my pleasure to meet Jeanette in the early 90s when I was working as artistic administrator of the Cleveland Orchestra.
They were looking for an assistant conductor, and I had not applied for the job, but it turned out that my name was on this list.
So I invited her for an interview with Mr. Dochnani, who was then the music director of the Cleveland Orchestra. He thought that the Cleveland Orchestra wasn't really in a position to welcome a woman conductor, and so simply said there's no point in her coming to audition.
I just blurted out the honest truth, and I said, well, that's fine, sir. I didn't apply for this job. You all contacted me.
As it turned out, of course, this was something that, in a way, played to Jeanette's strengths with the benefit of hindsight, because she was simply able to say, well, actually, I wasn't applying for this position in any case, and what I really want to do is start a period instrument group.
So that was the end of that conversation. But the administrator, Roger Wright, took me back to Severance Hall where I had left my car. And on the way, he said to me, I've always wanted to see Cleveland have a Baroque orchestra, and I think you are the person to do it. And if you like, I will help you. And he took me down to the Cleveland Foundation, which is the largest funder in Cleveland.
So to have this fresh-faced 20-something-year-old come into my office and want to talk about starting yet another orchestra. Cleveland already had several at the time.
We had to go 3 times. The first 2 times, they sent us away.
I sent her away, yes. The way I like to talk about it is sort of an Alice in Wonderland scenario. I gave her 10 impossible things to do, and darned if she didn't do them.
The 3rd time, they said, all right, here's $25,000, now leave us alone. And that is how Apollo's Fire came to be. Our debut concert was sold out, which was really amazing. When we announced that here's this new group playing the Mozart Requiem on period instruments, everybody came.
I started writing about her in the fall of 1992, and I have to tell you, I was dumbstruck. I had never heard an ensemble play this music in this fashion.
What she is very good at doing is articulating what she wants to do and then bringing her musicians along and then bringing the audience in, and where we meet, where they meet, is magic.
With Apollo's Fire, because I was the founder of the group, I had to learn a lot of things about the business side of it. And it was hilarious when I started. I was 26. I had zero business training. I wrote nearly all of the grant proposals for Apollo's Fire for the first 15 or 20 years. I've had to gradually learn a lot of things about being essentially what you would call a CEO.
I would say that it's her passion, it's her drive. I mean, the passion just underlines everything this woman does. You know, we've worked as a board, I think, over the last couple of years to try to support her because we want her to be the artistic director, not the business manager.
Right. Apollo's Fire box office, how can I help you? Oh, have you purchased tickets from us before?
These days, there's a wonderful general manager and staff.
I'm the executive director. It entails watching the financials, managing the staff, promoting the organization, fundraising, really everything. We are about $2.1 million. Less than 50% of that is earned income. So it's a lot of money. It's about $1.2 million that we have to raise year in and year out. We have 15 minutes, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2.5 minutes per person. All right, let's see if we can do it this time. Matt?
Sure.
That'd be great.
Next week we have an e-blast hitting on Monday. We are in the newsletter for the Cleveland Institute of Music. We are on Facebook pages for the Cleveland Institute of Music as well for our concert there. Radio ads are running on all the NPR stations. It for me, and I beat my time.
Yay!
So I just wanted to say, anytime you guys need promos, if I know what a deadline is, that really helps me.
I'm working on the Ireland tour. Things are coming along really well. I booked all the flights, so that's done. I think most of the hotels are done. Hugh and Vicky and I are chatting about all the details, so we're in good shape there too.
Annual fund mailing, spoke with John at Magic Marketing. Everything is set, ready to go, checked addresses, all of that's been done.
Okay, so in box office land, as Matt said, since the postcards hit, all of a sudden we're getting quite a lot of internet sales, which is definitely an uptick.
And we included a flyer in the acknowledgement letters for the gala,
right,
for the Laurel Pavilion event. Lastly, Meredith and I, one of our big things this summer is to focus on corporate funding. So we're going to be doing quite a bit of that. So
Really good. 9 minutes and 24 seconds.
Wow. Yay! This is a record. This is a record.
We think that Bach was inspired to compose Brandenburg Concerto No. 5 when he received a fancy new 2-manual harpsichord from Berlin. It was much like this one here. And so in this piece, you can hear him experimenting with how to feature the harpsichord in an orchestra, something which had never been done before. The piece begins seeming to be merely a concerto for violin and flute, and the harpsichord in its traditionally subservient role. And then the harpsichord begins playing melodies. This was a new thing, in dialogue with the flute and the violin. And then later on, the harpsichord simply goes crazy, playing mad scales up and down the keyboard with no concern for anyone else. And then finally, everyone drops out and the harpsichord plays alone for a very long time. I just wanted to prepare you for it, but hang in there. The other instruments do return, and it's worth waiting for them. Brandenburg 5. Egmont Overture. So at the top we have the woodwinds, flutes, oboes, clarinets, bassoons, and then we have the brass, horns, trumpets, timpani, and at the bottom we have the strings, first violin, second violin, viola, cello, bass. This introduction, the theme is in saraband rhythm, which I think Beethoven chose as an ancient Spanish dance because Egmont is about an evil Spanish dictator. And then when the winds come in, they're very plaintive, and I'm marking it espressivo. I'm marking it espressivo with a lot more dynamic nuances, subtle things that Beethoven didn't mark. And then towards the end of the introduction it becomes more agitated. We'll have an accelerando, getting us to the tempo of the allegro, which is very agitato.
Do you hear what you're looking at?
Yeah.
How does that work? You can convert all those lines into one sound. How does a conductor look at a score and hear it?
Ear training, so practice hearing a third, practice hearing a fourth, practice hearing a fifth, intervals. I probably hear different parts of it at different times, I suppose, you know.
Do you play it on the keyboard?
It depends what it is. I don't necessarily play stuff at the keyboard because sometimes I don't really need to. If it's the earlier the music, the easier it is to just hear it in your head. If you're asking how one sort of hears all of it at the same time, I don't even know how to answer that, and I don't know if that's exactly what I'm doing.
I guess it remains a mystery.
Maybe that'll be the theme of the film.
But the fact remains that you do hear what you're looking at.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My friend Noah Bendix-Baugli is the concertmaster of the Berlin Philharmonic. We worked together with the Pittsburgh Symphony, and then I invited him to play with Apollo's Fire.
You want to do a little place that last? Okay. I mean, I've done it both ways, so I go with which.
Okay.
I've done like straight da 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 pa pum or.
Well, we're playing non-divisi chords. As
Yeah,
much as
yeah. So it
possible.
needs a little. Okay.
Yeah.
She asked about doing a Beethoven concerto with Apollo's Fire, and not on my normal modern violin setup, but rather to put on gut strings. Transitional bow, not a Baroque bow, but a classical bow that would have been used back there at the beginning of the 1800s.
I spent 3 summers here, and they were probably my favorite summers. A lot of hard work, a lot of pressure, but great teachers and such a beautiful environment. I was the baby of the conducting class, and sometimes it was hard to get people to take me seriously. But I think they did in the end. The descriptions of playing from Baroque times, it was much more free rhythmically than what people did in the 20th century. Because Baroque music is all about affect. And what the Baroque treatises all talked about, the role of the performer was to move the emotions and influence the moods of the listeners. That also includes Beethoven, by the way. Like, all the descriptions of Beethoven's piano playing talk about quite a lot of rubato and rushing ahead during crescendos and retarding during diminuendos. So that's definitely something to think about. All right, I think we should have somebody conduct.
Back there too and face them that way? No.
Okay. So Egmont was a beloved noble count who was, arrested by the Spanish dictator and put to death, executed. And that inspired the people of the Netherlands to rise up in revolution, and that is what brought about the independence of the Netherlands. In terms of the big opening chords, does anyone have an opinion on what those are about?
It's the Spanish saraband.
Yes! Bravo! It is a Spanish saraband, which is the rhythm yam bam, da dum bam, da dum. Okay? So you want to be sure in the tempo that you pick at the beginning that we can recognize it as having that kind of saraband rhythm. And a saraband is, strong, strong-ish, and strong, weak, generally speaking.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So see if you can show us all of those things.
Sure.
Okay, so let's do it again. Sorry, forgot to talk about the opening chord.
Yes.
What might that be about?
The oppression of the Netherlands, right?
Sure. Anything more specific? Let me give you a clue.
Count Egmont.
Yeah, so he was thrown into a dungeon at one point.
Yes.
Okay, so many people think of this
so
as the
like-
slamming of the dungeon door.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I think that it can be a little bit more scary.
Okay.
And you can either do it very suddenly as a surprise, or you can do it with a lot of ominous preparation. There are a lot of different ways you can do it.
That makes sense.
But
yeah.
pick one of those and give us something a little more atmospheric.
Sure.
Will I get out of this dungeon? No, you won't. Will anyone come to rescue me? Okay. Okay, next victim. Yes, yes, right. So we have the brass answered by the strings, brass strings, right? Two very different characters. Yeah. So what do you think the brass represent?
The really strong presence and then this really soft and kind of sweet sound.
Right.
That comes.
And to me, I would say that the first violins there are pleading. Dee-dum, dee-dum, da-dum, da-dum. It's like, please spare my life, you know?
Yes.
And then you get the insistent, yum, bomb, this is the dictator, yeah? And then you have the pleading again, dee-dum, dee. And then you get the whole orchestra coming in the insistent dictator rhythm, yum, bum, ba-dum, bum, the last time, da-dum, bum. And then the famous dee-dum, which is...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That makes
Okay,
sense.
that's the beheading.
Yeah.
And Beethoven gave us a very clear sign, I think, of what that means and of the tension that has to hang in the air afterwards because he put a fermata on the rest. So that's rhetoric right there. Then we have the coda. And talk to me about that.
I would imagine that that's the martyrdom aspect of it, with the fact that Egmont has died, and that this presence here is kind of, it's signaling. It's like it's very soft at the beginning, but then it crescendos, gets to the fortissimo, and it goes to F major, and then it's all this that we the people can kind of stand up against this and use his death as the kind of signifying cause for causing us to stand up. Yeah,
Basically right on it, yeah. So a little more specifically then, I think when the coda starts, you have this scurrying music, right? You have the very busy inner strings, and then the violins, I think it's what happened after the execution was that the people began to all essentially come out and scurry around, and we want to have this sense of building excitement and decision that yes, we can do this, we're going to, claim our freedom, and here comes the revolution. Okay? So, end of discussion. Can you conduct the same passage and show us all of this a little bit more clearly?
Great, okay.
So soon. We just had someone beheaded here. Okay, that's shocking.
Yes.
It takes a while to recover from it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last fortissimo?
Yeah. Prayer. Sense of hope?
You know, meeting you as a student at Oberlin, you already had such a vivid musical personality. And I don't think everybody has that at that age. And it made you stick out in a wonderful, way.
I stuck out.
And at that age, many people are still sort of finding their way to their own voice, one way to put it. You already had your own voice. But even while watching you teach tonight, when you were kind of conducting along, I knew so much about what you were hearing because of a certain just human transparency and the strength of your imaginative ear. Somehow we bring our sensibilities to that process in ways that we're not conscious of, and other people see or hear.
I think as a guest conductor working with symphony orchestras, especially for me as a Baroque specialist or doing early classical music, it's crucial as a guest conductor that the concertmaster must be your ally and your partner. Singing! It's so great to meet you. I've heard all about you.
Me too. I heard so much about you.
Gran piacere.
Piacere tutto mio.
Allora, so, you know, this kind of thing, what I call the whale tone, we just do with a very fast bow so that it has this quick decay.
Yes.
Yeah. If I ask you to demonstrate them for them, would that be okay?
You wanna?
Yeah. Or even it can be using the whole. Yes.
That's
that
more
kind
of
of
a
thing.
without an attack.
Yes, round attack. Yeah. So you use up almost all of the bow at the beginning, you know.
Yes. So
yes. Yeah.
So it is the front of the note without being an accent.
Yes.
That's
yeah.
what
Some people call it
so
a Schubert accent or something.
Oh, that's actually good. Yeah.
Something like that.
It's very vocal, so that
yeah. Seconds violas and. Singing. So, any questions on the grave before we work on the allegro?
Because I also, in a tight way, also has P, 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 P. I think it's a P, P, P.
Right.
It's the tenuto on that thing. I don't think we should ever make that tenuto on this. P, P, P.
No.
P, P.
Exactly. Right.
If it always a little, even if the sound continues with the space, but without, trying to hold it.
I think you'll find that many major symphony orchestras are doing less Baroque and classical music unless they have an expert from the early music field on the podium.
1, 2.
Unto us a child is born, a son is given, unto us a son is given, unto us a son is given.
Right. But the reason for these held back notes is because you're so incredibly happy. Yep, up, has to have a little more conviction. Same place. 1, 2.
For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, unto us a son is given, unto us a son is given. The government shall be upon his shoulder. The government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the mighty God, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace.
watch here.
I think one of the most fascinating mysteries about our work is how we get from sight to sound. Then how does that get transmitted to the group? You can point to the things that happen, facial expressions, gestural expressions, posture, all kinds of nonverbal communications. And ultimately, it doesn't help one whit to understand what's really going on, which is something about...
Because it's all about having a really burningly clear conception of how what every note means and how they relate to each other, right?
I think that's really our game, isn't it? To make the realities of sound come as close as possible to the idealism of our conception of the piece. Would you accept that?
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's why we're on the podium.